These two teams played on Monday night last December in Seattle.
Yeah.
It was 3-0 after 3 quarters.
Right.
This was anything but that kind of boring. This was exciting. The kind of football game I love. Both teams in the 30s. Exciting, scoring, big plays, big moments. So many big moments that by the end of the game you forget some of them. Like, how about the Russell Wilson tip drill that resulted in a pick six, only his 3rd interception of the year?
Yes.
And the 2nd interception that went for a touchdown for the other team. I mean, and that's forgotten after all the craziness that ultimately unfolded. That's how good of a game it was.
No, you're right. It was full of big plays, had everything you want, the drama, all that. Yeah, Russell Wilson, you never see him make a mistake like that. Thinks he's going to bat it down, bats it up in the air, volleyball style. To your point, Mike, the funny thing is with the Vikings and the Seahawks, they've been defensive teams for the last decade, and they clearly are not right now. They play through their offense on both sides of the ball. I mean, Seattle's got a top 5 offense. The Vikings got a top 5 offense, and there was a lot of big plays in the game in general. I think that's what made it a lot of fun. You got some superstar individual power on the defensive side of the ball, but neither defense is something to brag about, I guess is what I would say. There's concerns on both of those defenses. And for you guys, Mike, I mean, the one thing, and I'm saying you guys as in Vikings, okay? The one thing that is a silver lining too is, hey, there you go. You went into Seattle. You had chances to win the game. You blew a coverage at one point. And, throw an interception, which was a highly contested ball back in your own area there. And you did it without one of your best players. Adam Thielen not there is a game changer. And I think if this matchup happens again in the playoffs, that Minnesota can at least go up there and go, we can pull this off. We're not totally outmanned to where this game's over automatically because we're on the road in Seattle.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and this is what was riding on the game, because after the loss, the Vikings had the furious comeback, the final score 37-30, the Vikings got it 34-30, more coming up on my belief on where it went wrong and why it went wrong. But Mike Zimmer said after the game, it's not the end of the world, we're still 8-4. Well, it's not the end of the world, but what it is this, it's the beginning of what will be a very difficult stretch for the Vikings. Now, they need to win at a home against Detroit, and then they've got the game at the Chargers. They have the Packers on a Monday night coming up in 2 weeks and 6 days, and then they finish with the Bears. They're going to have to get to the playoffs, and they may get there 12-4 as the 6th seed, but then the hard part begins because you're going to have to go on the road 3 times to get to the Super Bowl. If they had won last night, it would have been the start of something great potentially because division title right there. Bye week, potentially right there, a lot easier path. So they're going to have to do it the hard way, and they may have more weapons available to them when the time comes, but they're going to have those weapons anyway in January. It's always better to get the home games. That's what was riding on last night, and that's what made it so important for the Seahawks, who now have bumped the 49ers out of the 1 seed.
Right.
The Seahawks are now the 2 seed. Saints are the 1 seed by virtue of the tiebreaker from earlier this year. But think about that. Both 1 seeds this weekend out, new 1 seeds in, and that's how much was riding on that game for both teams. And it really did have that playoff feel to it. And you do kind of get the feeling that you'd like to see a rematch of that game at some point in January.
I would take it. I mean, hey, let's also not forget that Dalvin Cook came out of the game in the 3rd quarter in the most crucial part of the football game while the Seattle Seahawks were on a 24-0 run there. I got to think that changes a little bit if he's out there and it's not quite the same outcome. I'm not saying they win the football game, but that was a huge blow to your team. Halfway through the 3rd quarter, he fumbled the ball. All right, they're your team. Deal with it. I'm referring to them as your team for the rest of the year. But, yes, it is going to be a tough road on the playoffs for anybody in the NFC because, I don't care who you are, if you get a home wild card game or not, to have to go on the road to possibly either Seattle, New Orleans, or Seattle, San Francisco, or, San Francisco, Seattle, whatever it may be, however combination you want to talk about, that is going to be extremely tough. We do know that. But I like your Minnesota Viking football team, Mike. And, of course, I like the Seattle Seahawks. They're dangerous. They're running the ball well. Their defense has been very opportunistic as of late. Their big thing for me is Jadeveon Clowney's health. As long as he could stay healthy, that's when they are in the upper echelons of the NFL. When he's not, I worry about their defense and whether they can stop some of the really quality teams in the NFC.
quick observation, too, on the moment that Dalvin Cook was injured, because he fumbled the ball. It was 17 all at the time.
Right.
It opened the door for the Seahawks to take their first lead of the game, 20-17. But after that fumble recovery, right, look, I understand, and I'm not going to do the get off my lawn thing, even though sometimes I would like you to get off my lawn. When we do the class picture Stanley Cup photo in the end zone after every turnover, can we at least keep our eyes open, cameramen and women and people in the truck, for the possibility that there's a serious injury 30 yards back up the field? That's far more important than seeing a bunch of Seahawks defensive players mug for the camera after a fairly routine fumble recovery, because Cook was down, and as they went to break, it looked like he was sobbing on the field.
It did. It looked like he was crying on the field. You're right. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, a significant injury for the Vikings. They said it was shoulder. After the game, they said it's chest, and they're saying he's going to be able to play on Sunday. But I think back to the Adam Thielen hamstring injury, and it's like, I'll believe it when I see it, because they kind of rushed him back. And the other side of it, too, Alexander Mattison is not a huge drop from Dalvin Cook.
No, he's not.
And if they don't have Cook, I think they'll be okay. But there's just, I'm gonna defer to next segment, the one key moment that I think merits the most criticism for Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins was great, right?
Yeah.
They were down 17 points, and the blown coverage, the Quan Treadwell, good for him actually catching the ball. They score the long touchdown, and next thing you know, it's a 10-point game.
Right.
Then the Vikings get the ball back. Remember, there was that fake punt that felt like the dagger.
Oh, that felt like the game was over. Fumble. Right.
DK Metcalf fumbles.
Yep.
And then and Kirk Cousins had, and I got to give him credit, because how many times do we criticize, Chris, a quarterback who is in the final 10 minutes of the game, down 2 scores, lackadaisical, nonchalant, taking his good old time, no sense of urgency? Cousins was on it, and he knew what he had to do, and he was getting those guys to the line of scrimmage, and he was lining them up, and he was calling the plays, and he was being decisive, and they got the ball down the field. And what a beautiful little lob, and what a catch by Kyle Rudolph to make it 34-30. I mean, Cousins was on fire last night. The numbers don't reflect it, but he was. He spread the ball around to 9 different guys. He made good decisions. He made good throws. It was fun to watch, and it really felt like he was going to finally shed that negative. And now he's 0-8 on Monday Night Football, and he's going to get a chance in a couple of weeks to get his first Monday Night Football win. But it wasn't his fault last night.
No, it
really wasn't, and it was almost his credit and his performance that willed the Vikings back into it.
Agreed. I think he is a man on a mission. I think he's totally aware, of course, and you've always said this, of all the talk around him. I mean, the announcers, Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland, they acknowledge that, he thinks Monday Night Football is special and wants to get a win on it. So he knows what's going on out there. I will say this. Yeah, I really do think this is a different Vikings team than we've seen the last few years. Whether they can make a run in the NFC playoffs, I don't know. But the thing I do like about their team in general, they're tough, they run the ball, they make big plays in the pass game and run game a lot, right? Other than turnovers, explosive 20-plus yard plays are the number 2 stat that dictates wins and losses. You got that. Your defense is a little scary, but my big point is this. I do see I don't know what I want to say, a common thread as far as just unity within a team that I like to see with teams that are successful. I really do. You see it on your sidelines right now, too, just the way Stephon Diggs and Cousins and the defense and everybody interacts. You could tell it's a team that's very close that way. And to me, they are still a dangerous football team. Yeah, they're probably going to have to go on the road and do it the hard way, but I think they are the type of team, come playoff time, that is going to be a pain in the butt and is made to play on the road because of the run game and the style of offense they play. And, of course, you got some studs on defense to go along with it.
The way it's shaping up right now, they're going to have to go to Lambeau Field to start the postseason. Then they're going to have to go to New Orleans or San Francisco or Seattle in the divisional round. And then if you win that, congratulations, you're going to have to go to New Orleans or San Francisco or Seattle. Or maybe even Dallas, who knows, by the time it's all said and done. And let me say this before we take a break, because when we come back, I want to talk about the moment where I think Kirk Cousins did make his biggest mistake of the night. But the Xavier Rhodes blown coverage, and they immediately told us that he was expecting safety help over the top. What the hell was he expecting? Harrison Smith was in front of him.
Yes, I know.
What did he think was behind him?
I don't know. Right, exactly right. I'm not buying it.
When are people going to say Xavier Rhodes doesn't belong on the football field? He's a liability, Chris. And the only reason he's on the team is because of how much guaranteed money he had this year.
Yes.
If his contract did not tie the Vikings' hands, he would not be on the team.
No.
And they have him out on the field in key moments. What the hell is Mike Zimmer thinking?
Yeah, no, I understand that if there's a weakness to your team, it is the depth of your defensive front seven. Okay, the depth of your defensive front seven, which you saw kind of get worn down a little bit as the game went on. And then, yeah, I don't trust your corners, and especially Xavier Rhodes. You're right. I mean, the problem is you guys want to play nickel defense all the time, so you need 3 corners in there. And, I think he's still a part of the best 3 you got on the football team, even though I think Michael Hughes in base defense, he should be the guy that starts outside instead of Xavier Rhodes.
Michael Hughes, Mackenzie Alexander, Holton Hill. What happened to Holton Hill?
Yeah, you're right. Where did he go? No, you're right. Yeah. I'm wrong. It's more than 3. They need to. You're right. They might have to think about benching Xavier Rhodes. I don't think that's a crazy thought at all, Mike. I think everything you said is spot on. I forgot about Mackenzie Alexander.
After the David Moore touchdown,
yeah,
he had been targeted 4 times. He had given up 4 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown. And he had a stupid late hit out of bounds that gave the Seahawks 15 yards in the first half. So I don't know what it is. But at some point, I think, and I'm sure they've talked to him and they've talked to him, and they see those flashes of good, and they focus on those, and they think they can iron out the bad. Well, at some point, you have to accept the fact you're not ironing out the bad.
He's too big. He's too big. That's the thing I look at.
Kicking the can to the end of the season, and he's going to be gone after the season. All right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.